a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty.
Pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know never ever let me go. So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know will never ever let me go. Mama died, and then my daddy died. I never seen the look I seen in my grandma eyes. She said, son, I'm tired. I said, I'm tired too. Lost my mama dead the same year. So what I'm supposed to do? It's gonna get hard for me. It's gonna get hard for you. Granddaddy told me, son, I'm gonna live through you. Do all you gotta do, but be all you gotta be. You gotta be the one to take care of family. My mama told me, son, I'm gonna die. They gave her 6 months, she only lived 5. But God got away from me, so don't you cry. So long as I live, I'm gonna shoot for the sky. Yeah, yeah. Pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know will never ever let me go. So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know will never ever let me go. Now that my mama gone, I gotta be strong. I gotta live my life, this life is still going on. Take care of my family, cause they depend on me. We gotta pray together, we build our family tree. Now we down too, but it ain't over. Tears steady rolling, let it run over. Sometimes I get high, but I gotta stay sober. I know my life ain't perfect, but I know it ain't over. My mama told me, son, I'm gonna die. They gave her 6 months, she only lived 5. But God got away from me, so don't you cry. So long as I live, I'm gonna shoot for the sky. Yeah, yeah. So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know will never ever let me go. So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know will never ever let me go.
Yeah.
Unlike metformin and insulin.
Welcome to the WUAO Show. I am your host, Michael Phelps from the WUAO Show. As I always state, that WUAO is a educational group. We talk about problems within our community, families, but we also try to talk about solutions. And like I always say, you know, we ain't the all know all. You know, this is our opinion, but we try to be as fluent as we can when it comes to these topics, because there's a lot of issues in our community, and that we try to address from a spiritual, social, economical, political, psychological standpoint. So as I said, I'm your host, Michael Phelps. The King introduced himself.
Remy Prolo.
Okay. What is it? You got a topic for us?
I got it. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. If not, let us know. The topic today is seeing all the deaths, losses, and so much grieving and traumas within our families, communities. How do we heal as an individual or as a whole? How do we heal as an individual or as a whole? You want me to start with number one?
Yes.
Okay, number one says, how does a loss of a loved one cause so much pain in the family and community? Is it because of an unexpected death, or finding out that they had no insurance, or that they left debt to be cleared up?
Okay. And that one thing I was when we dealing with family and we dealing with deaths, they come unexpected most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some that come because a lot of times people don't even want to tell you that they're sick.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that causes a lot of pain because you don't know a person's been sick all this time,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you get that last minute and you find that they're sick. Then all of a sudden they're dead the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even have prepared for the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So you just basically, and then you always tell yourself, "Oh, I need to get over and see that person."
Mm-hmm.
Or I need to go, and then you find yourself so busy, you don't get a chance to get there, then all of a sudden they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes a lot of grief. And so then what that happens, and when the funeral comes on, that grief, that pain of you not being there can sometimes come off
Mm-hmm.
within the funeral,
Mm-hmm.
which causes a lot of breakdown, causes a lot of division.
Mm-hmm.
Have you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that? Because we've been there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to reconcile that once you let something fly out your mouth during the midst of grieving. It's hard to get that relationship to to uh, um, to come back because there's words that's been said at a moment that people would take serious. They would compartmentalize that and take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 10 years down the road, you're still angry at that one incident. I thought funerals wasn't for the dead. I thought it was for the living. What is your thing? What do you?
Well, yeah. I mean, when a person passes on, um, that's a closed chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Their book is done.
Yeah.
So the only books that are still present are the ones who are the onlookers, people who are observing, people who are present. So when while everyone's sitting around and reminiscing and talking about what this person contributed to their life, oftentimes what people don't do is they don't look introspectively and take a step back. Because oftentimes, especially at funerals, people are right up on the TV, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Figuratively speaking, they're right up on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
You got a 60, 80, 70-inch screen, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of taking a step back so you can see everything right up on it. What I mean by being right up on it, I'm talking about your emotions.
Yeah.
Your emotions cause you to be right up on the screen. Your emotions cause you to only be able to see what's directly in front of your face, and that's the person who's in the casket, or the person who's in the urn, or whatever kind of funeral it is. Because sometimes, not everybody's bodies are present. Sometimes, they've been cremated or whatever the case may be. But the reality is that nothing that anybody says is going to change anything for that person who is now gone. The only thing, the only people that those things that are said, the only thing that it changes is for the people who are having an opportunity to express. Maybe, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, maybe because, of course, this is going to, this is going to be dealing with the squiggly things that most people don't like to deal with, the ugly things up under the rocks that people don't want to deal with. The millipedes and peas and worms and all that kind of stuff. You ever lifted a rock that's been sitting for a very long time, and then you pull it back, you see all the little bugs, and you just make it go, ugh. Well, those are ugly things that people don't like to deal with, the ugly truths that people don't like to deal with. So, of course, when people take an opportunity to express at that time, the only people who are listening or even hearing are the ones that are present, and even yourself. Mm-hmm. So you might think to yourself, well, this is my opportunity to speak because I didn't get a chance to make it by there. Yeah. I told them I was gonna make it by there. So when you deal with the reality of not being able to make it by there, oftentimes were you not able to make it by, or did you procrastinate? That's something that you got to come to grips with within yourself, and decide what the true nature, the true situation was, the truth was of that situation. Because it's when we don't deal with those things, I believe that's what brings about the most trauma. Even when it comes to people's emotions, it's like, oh man, now they're gone. I'll never be able to say I'm sorry. Now they're gone. I'll never be able to, let them know that I love them. Now they're gone. I'll never be, we'll never be able to make up, or whatever the case may be, because maybe there was something you were hanging on to, or whatever the case may be, and you thought within yourself, I got all this time. That's the misconception that so many people have, is they think they have time. Both people those who are still living, maybe who thought that they had more time, even the people who are now gone thought that they had time. The thing is that time can creep up on any of us at any given moment, at any given time. Tomorrow's not promised to you. We've all heard that. Tomorrow's not promised to you, and it's not. At any given time, you can expire. Whether it be for a medical condition, whether it be for a car accident, whether it be you step outside, or a murder, homicide. It could be for a number of reasons: an accident, freak accident, person at work, and you went to work that morning, you didn't plan on, the plan wasn't for you not to come home. It just happened. And so when you think about all those things, if you really take a step back, again, we're talking about figuratively stepping back from the TV, getting out of our emotions so that we can see the big picture more clearly. Each and every time one attends a funeral, people should be learning something. Yeah. They should be learning something from the life of that individual that their chapter is now closed. What did their life teach me? And each person sitting there should think about that. Yeah. What did that person's life teach me, so that now when I go forward, I can be different. I can proceed differently, whatever the case may be. Maybe you have inside information. Maybe this person didn't have insurance, or whatever the case may be, or whatever. Or maybe there was, like I said, some conversation that should have been had that didn't get had, or never had, or whatever the case may be. So now that you know this, now that you are armed with this information, what are you going to do different? Yeah. Going forward? Yeah. Or are you going to remain the same and do the same thing at the next funeral, and hoping that the funeral is not yours? Yeah. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Because now your chapter is closed, and now somebody else is going to have to learn from you. Mm-hmm. And then how are they going to proceed? It just continues. Yeah, and then then it's one of those times that we don't properly prepare to prevent poor performance. If we think about all the deaths in our community, all the young kids that are dying, that feel like they got a lot of youth, so we don't expect them to die so quickly, and they out here doing reckless, living reckless life, indulging in all types of sorts of things of darkness. And people don't prepare for the worst case scenario.
So now that this child is out here, and you know, you looking at it yesterday, you see him, he looked like it's full of youth, it's full of like ambition to it can change at any moment to be this, to be the next role model, the next adult, the next. All of a sudden, bam, a car accident, bam, he gets shot in the head, bam. Um, he has a stroke at the age of 10. You know, has a brain tumor, end up having cancer at a young age, and you don't prepare because you know we think that they're youthful, that they don't, we feel like they exempt to the trauma because you still focus on the elders, but you forget about the youth who's living reckless. You know, um, and that causes a lot of stress on families because now a family ain't prepared. Elders think that our children are supposed to bury us, but now we end up finding ourselves burying them. Mm-hmm. And we didn't prepare to bury them because we feel like they got a life, they got a full life ahead of them because we got a chance to see our 60s and 70s years old. We assume. So these are the issues that we have in our community. Mm-hmm. These are the things that we don't think about or prepare for. Right? That's why I would say the 5 P's: proper preparation prevents poor performance. So if we properly prepare, we prevent poor performance as a collective and as a whole. You know, I think each family should have these talks. These are the talks that, like you said, we don't want to have. Mm-hmm. Families should have these talks because nobody wants to be out in the middle of the street selling TV dinners. Selling dinners, chicken dinners, fish dinner to bury a loved one. That's charity. That's a charity case. Mm-hmm. Who wants to be on the charity case to bury someone and you wearing T-shirts of a memorabilia of a person? That doesn't solve the problem. You know, and then all of a sudden, by the time you get done raising the money to bury this person, bam, here come another one, hit you right away. Another one gets shot or get killed. So now you got to go.
Just dies unexpectedly.
Or die unexpectedly. So you have same case scenario. You know, so we have to really be, you know, this subject is very touchy because I think these conversations need to have. I think each people who are leaders in your family, I think you should have these conversations. Bring your family together and have these conversations because if you love, when you love someone, you teach someone. They say you each one teach one saves one. And I think this is what we need to do in our communities. I think, you know, enough is enough of bad choices. What's your thought?
Well, now of course, just so that no one's offended, it's not a horrible thing when you find yourself in circumstances that sometimes, like I said, things do creep up on you. Yes. You can't be caught off guard. Mm-hmm. And you may have to sell dinner. You may have to be out there in a T-shirt, whatever it is, so that people understand the cause of what it is that you're collecting this money for, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. I understand. Well, you know, that's understood. But what's being stated, what we're talking about, is that shouldn't be the go-to. That shouldn't be the automatic. Now, if that's what you have to do, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, you might not have enough.
Yeah, sometimes
you need a little extra.
Yeah, sometimes it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. Yeah. But you don't want that to be the norm. And if you find it's you know, there used to be an old saying: once a school, twice a fool. Yes. You know, you get caught down with your pants once. You know, it's like when we were in school. You know, people used to try to de-pants you. You know, pull your pants down. Mm-hmm. Only had to happen one good time for you to realize that you make sure you had a belt on. Yeah. You know, or if you're wearing sweatpants, make sure them suckers are tied. You know, so people can't come up and de-pants you. You know, and such is life. You know, when life creeps up on you, life can creep up on any of us at any given time. None of us are exempt from being crept up on sometimes. Sometimes it just happens. But the key is when it does, learn. Yes. That is the key. Learn from having been crept up on. It's like if somebody catch you with a haymaker one good time, right? Mm-hmm. Learn. Next time, don't let them get too close. Yeah. You know, and it's just like life teaches us lessons all the time, but the question is, are we present or are we skipping class?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we are present just with the white of our eyes. Sometimes we are present just physically, but yet our mind is somewhere else. It's like being in a conversation with your better half, with your mate, husband, wife, and they're talking to you about something that's really important to them, but you're not present. You're talking on the phone, or with these days, it's 9 times out of 10, it's technology that's got someone's attention.
Yeah.
Meaning, you're on Facebook or you're on TikTok or whatever it is that you're on that's more important. And it's like they're like, "Do you hear me? Yeah, I hear you," but you don't hear them. You're passively listening. You're passively present. So when you're passively present, that's equivalent to being too close to a situation to where you don't see everything that's going on, meaning you're missing important information.
Yeah.
And when you miss important information, then you misunderstand. You're lacking in understanding. You may have knowledge. A person may say, "Well, what did I just say?" You may be able to tell them what they said, but the gravity of what they said, you have no grasp of because you weren't present. You weren't actually truly present in the conversation. And when it comes to life, we have to be present in order to be able to comprehend what life is throwing at us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You can't be, it's like almost like looking out a big picture window and see nothing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And you see nothing. Why? Why do you see nothing?
Because you only tunnel vision.
Because you're not looking properly.
Yes.
You see, that's why you see nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like staring off into space. Remember we used to call it staring off into space or daydreaming. You're like, yeah, a person may look like they're looking directly at you, dead at you.
Yeah, ain't seeing nothing.
But they're not seeing anything because their mind is somewhere else. If you've ever seen people at driving in traffic and they're sitting at a red light, and sometimes if you ever look at the car next to you, sometimes you will see people, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're just gone. As a matter of fact, after the light turns green, they're still sitting there because they're gone. Until someone,
or they make a bad decision.
Yeah.
And ran and hit something.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes the honking of a horn, or it takes, maybe somebody sitting in the car next to you say, "Hey, you gonna go?" Oh, yeah. Because you were gone. You weren't present. Yeah. You checked out for a minute. And that's what we cannot afford to do in life. And that's what we're talking about today, is that when you're talking about proper preparation prevents poor performance. In other words, when you're actually actively present in life, you're properly preparing by being actively present to prevent poor performance, to prevent things from getting by that probably shouldn't get by, or even when they do get by, you can sometimes you're just not going to be in control of everything that gets by, because some things are just going to get by, but you want to limit as much of the damage as possible by being consciously present, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, perfect sense. What's number 2? What we got for
number 2? We got somebody in the comments.
No, I got no comments.
Okay. Number 2. How should we handle someone that is grieving, that takes it out on the entire family and the community?
Now that's hard. That's hard because when people are, because what the first thing people do once something happened, the first thing they do, they run to the bottle. They run to the drugs to numb themselves from the pain. So it's hard to actively engage in a decent conversation to talk about an issue, whatever that issue might be. If it's due to how we're gonna pay for this funeral, how do you feel about this person passing away, or did you know if this person was sick? If they're intoxicated to the point that they're uncoercive to the understanding of what you're trying to convey, and their mindset is not in the right place, you might say something, they might take it in stride like it's an insult because they're not in their rightful state of mind. So Then as the conversation progresses, there's things that's going to end up being said that's going to cause someone to lash out. Because maybe somebody might bring up some issue that they have with the person at the wrong time, at the wrong place, doing at the wrong for the wrong thing. Person, place, a thing. The wrong person could be saying it to the wrong person, and at the wrong place for the wrong thing, and that can trigger a whole wide war and cause a family to split because you're not in your rightful state of mind. That happens all the time. And those things last for 20, 30, 10 years because nobody knows how to communicate. They don't even want to go back and reconcile that to say, okay, there might have been a misunderstanding. Maybe I shouldn't have said it at this particular time. Or maybe you took it the wrong way. Or whatever. How do we deal with that as grieving people? Because both sides are grieving, but everybody don't grieve the same way. Mm-hmm. So maybe this person might feel like they want to let something off their chest. Mm-hmm. This person said, well, that's the wrong time for you to let it off your chest, because I'm grieving over here this way. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to focus on what I'm going to do to have to, like a kid has to take care of their father or mother. Mm-hmm. And then this auntie or somebody say something at the wrong time about their brother. Mm-hmm. The child was looking at, the auntie looking at, well, that's my brother. I can say what I want to say. Mm-hmm. The child said, this is my mother, this is my father. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. How do we repair that damage moving forward? Well, people mentally check out several different ways. You mentioned a couple of them. Some people mentally check out through alcohol. Mm-hmm. Some people mentally check out drugs. Mm-hmm. Some people mentally check out through isolation. Yeah. Some people and some people just but when it boils down to it, no matter how one may mentally check out, because people do, it takes a lot of courage not to mentally check out. It takes a lot of courage to keep one's emotions intact. Yeah. Because see, oftentimes what's driving the mental checkout are the emotions. Mm-hmm. The emotions take over. Yeah. The emotional brain overrides the rational brain. So one does not think rationally. One does not consider how things that they might say may affect others. Mm-hmm. One does not take taking consideration who all is present. They don't take a roll call of their audience, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Like you said, maybe it's an auntie, her brother has passed, mm-hmm. but she's not considering, because of her emotional state, she's not considering his son, yes, who's present. Yes. The son that's present is in an emotional state, depending on age. Now you got to consider age. It's another factor that must be considered. So you might say, well, that's my brother, I can say whatever I want. But then the son is saying, well, but that's my father. This son may be a child. Yeah. So now, as a child, who's the adult in the room? Who's gonna be adult enough to understand or to take a back seat to the fact that this child's emotions, knowing that this child is hasn't even experienced enough life yet to even understand their emotions well enough to be able to maneuver through life like that, like an adult can. Yeah. An adult is more readily apt to bounce back than a child. Yeah. So so the question, the answer, often is consideration. Is what most people don't take. They don't take others into consideration because of their own emotional state, because of their own emotional hurt, and because emotions are driving. Yeah. When emotions are driving, then it's about me. Mm-hmm. How I feel, screw how you feel,
Everybody wants to be acknowledged for how they feel, right?
Yeah.
But they're not taking in consideration. Now it's one thing. It's like when you're at home in your own house, you feel how you want, right? Because you're in your own house. But as soon as you step out your front door, you start interacting with the community. You start interacting with other family members. You start going to family gatherings and things like that. Now it's not just about you. It was fine for it to be just about you when you were at home and it was just you, right? But when you go into an environment where there's others, now consideration must enter the room.
Yes.
Now you must consider others beyond just yourself. Because now, like you said, you mentioned it vaguely, timing is everything. There's a time and a place to do things, and there's a way to go about things after you've considered the information that you've been presented. Now, if you know this particular person was extremely close to a relative, or whatever the case may be, and what you say might be taken a little, maybe they might be sensitive to what you might say. Well, then you might keep that to yourself, or you may not say that within their earshot. You may have that conversation with somebody else who's rational enough to understand where you're coming from, and who may even tell you, yeah, I get you, bro, but look, don't let so and so hear you say that. You see what I mean? Let somebody be open enough to let somebody check you, because again, consideration has to enter the room to where it's not just about you. It's about other people are involved as well. Other people's feelings have to be considered too. It's not just about you. But when people are selfish, now selfish attitudes bring about trauma.
And hurt
people. So they're going to say, well, because of how I feel, well, they just need to get over it. Well, hey, you just need not to be sensitive. Who are you to tell me not to be sensitive? I can tell you the same thing. Why are you being sensitive? Matter of fact, why are you being insensitive?
Why do you feel like you shouldn't come because you have never came and reconciled? Sometimes redemption doesn't always mean that, let's say hypothetically, you had a problem with your uncle or your brother or your sister or your cousin. You didn't talk to them the whole entire time, and then they end up passing. So you love their brother or their sister, or you love their mom, but you say you're not gonna come because you felt like I didn't reconcile with my cousin or my brother. So you decide not to come. That's that isolation thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you come? This is the time to reconcile, regardless of the person. It'd be nice if you would have reconciled before they passed away, but that shouldn't stop you from coming to pay your last respect and grieve with the family, because that's what fellowship is about.
Well,
that's how we help each other. That's how we help each other heal.
A person may feel like they have nothing in common with the family. They may feel like they're how they feel about having left something unsaid, unsettled,
reconciled,
undealt, and not dealt with properly. They may feel like, well, yeah, you grieving, you had a relationship with them, but I can't meet you there because my grieving is different from yours. Your grieving is from loss. My grieving is from a lost opportunity.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's two different positions of grieving.
Yeah. And and there's never going to be any best way to solve the issue unless you put forth the effort.
Right.
All efforts have to be put forth before anything can be changed. So if when it's kind of to me, it's almost like when the grass is turning brown because it ain't getting no water. It's got to go. It's going through this time where it's just dying. It looks like it's about dead, and then you have to have some type of hope and say, hope it rains. And then when it does rain, that one little inch of rain helps turn that grass back green. That little water, that time it rains, turns the grass green again. You have to have some type of hope that something's going to happen in the process of that, because the water don't know it's going to turn that grass back. Let's say if it don't rain, it just rain for 10, 20 minutes, but it poured down. But the grass is super dry, bone dry, brown. But that little water is able to start turning that grass green again, because it hopes that it believes that what the nutrient is getting from the water is going to give it what it needs, and then it's able to start to change. That's what we got to do as people, regardless if you feel. Remember we talked about fickle feelings and deadbeat emotions. A lot of it's just our deadbeat emotions and fickle feelings, of why we don't try to make we don't try to do
Well,
something.
again, see, and I'm real careful with that term.
What's that?
Fickle feelings and deadbeat emotions. I'm real careful with that because you have to be mindful not to allow emotions to drive, but it doesn't mean that emotions don't exist.
Yes.
So emotions should not be devalued.
Sure, it should.
But at the same time,
it can't be dictated.
They shouldn't dictate.
Shouldn't dictate.
So it's a fine balancing act. So when a person says fickle feelings and deadbeat emotions, one can be offended by that. One can be offended because, wait a minute, what are you saying? My feelings don't matter?
No.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. And that's why there's a thing called logical approach and an irrational approach. You can have an irrational approach but if you learn to use your logical approach to an irrational situation,
right,
you can be logical and say, okay, my feelings do matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted my feelings to value what I feel, mm-hmm. and I don't want nobody to overlook what I feel. Right. But use a logical approach. Right. Your logical essence will be the water that's coming down and going across a dead grass that is almost about to catch fire. Right. It can transform it can transform that grass from bone dry, ready to catch fire, to living.
Well, yeah, logic will welcome consideration.
Prevail, yeah. Logic
will welcome consideration.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not saying what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I want because
that's why I brought that spin.
Yes.
So that so people understood.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that, because now I don't want people to think that we have to overlook it. I'm glad you brought that to the table, because we don't want people to overlook their feeling
or feel like their feelings don't matter.
Exactly.
Because their feelings are valid. Everybody's feelings are valid.
Exactly. And sometimes, I learned one thing in psychology. They said, apology is not always going to be said in words. Mm-hmm. So sometimes an action verb is better than an irrational subject. Objective. How they call it. I always say find some type of common ground, mm-hmm. to don't misplace or displace what you feel, but place it in a place where you can grow spiritually within yourself. Because if you hold in so much, it keeps you from your eternal spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. We're suffering in our community because we lack the spiritual internal growth. Mm-hmm. Because we're too busy focused on the outside appearance of deception. I look at someone and say, okay, well, that person don't give a dang about me. That's an outside perception. Mm-hmm. You don't know what that person is feeling on the inside. They might just want you to come over and say something to them. Mm-hmm. But both of y'all got so much pride and ego that neither one of y'all is scared to take the initiative step. So maybe if you took a step and said, okay, well, I'm not going to force a person to accept my apology, but at least I can throw it out there, and I can hopefully they'll accept it, and I'm gonna walk off and allow it to grow. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But make sure it's genuine, because sometimes you can say it and you can say you're sorry, but you can have a distasteful way of saying it. Mm-hmm. You have to have a genuine. If you really want to squash something, you got to have a genuine. And I just think that we haven't learned how to. I think in our community we have not learned proper ways to serve one another during the time of grieving, or on the time of what we need, and with the time of what we want. Because we got to understand what need, wants, and grieving is. We can want as we want. Everybody wants something. Everybody needs something, and everybody's grieving. So we got to understand how to deal with each other in those three areas at a particular time, space, and manner. I don't know how we do that. You said it well earlier. Don't displace people's feelings. And that's where we start. Just don't overlook someone else's feelings. If they don't want to talk right now,
give them space.
But at least let your say your piece and walk off and allow them to process.
Right.
Because everybody has to process.
Right.
And they got, and most of the time when they are processing, they want to process if it was genuine or not.
Right.
That's what helps them come back around.
Well, yeah, it's just like, you know, you can't force somebody
Yes.
to listen. Meaning, you can't tell somebody, you're going to stay here and you're going to hear me out until I'm done. Now you're not respecting their feelings.
Yeah. Or
their feeling is, hey, I need to get away for a minute. Okay? So a proper response be, hey, you know what? We can talk about this at another time. You know, I really want to have this conversation with you. You know, but can we talk about this at another time? Right now, it's not neutral for me.
Yes.
Or right now, I'm not feeling it. I think that I'm not going to have a proper response if we have this conversation right now. See, if a person tells you that, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
they open.
They're open to the conversation, but they're verbalizing that they're not ready. Yeah. You know, but like you said, like all apologies are verbal.
Yes.
Well, all communication is not verbal either. Matter of fact, 90% of it's not verbal. Yeah. So when you consider, when you got to step back from the TV. We talked about that earlier. Yep. You got to figuratively step back from the TV so that you can see everything that's going on with that person. Yeah. Their nonverbals may be telling you something. They're uncomfortable. They're antsy. They're irritable. If a person's looking all around and clenching their fists, they're grinding their teeth. Those are all good indicators that they're probably not ready to have this conversation right now. You know what? And sometimes they may not verbalize it, but this is how you help them out. You know what? It appears to me. Don't define their feelings for them. Yeah. But say, it appears to me that you may not be ready, and if that's the case, let me give you some space. Yeah. Let's talk about this later. A person, again, then you walk away, like you just said, you walk off, and you let that marinate. Yes. Yeah. By the time they calm down, they're going to appreciate the fact that you respected them enough to give them space. Yeah. Then they're going to probably come back and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, earlier I really wasn't ready to have that conversation, but hey, if you're ready, we can talk now. I think I'm ready. You know, now you can sit down at the table and have an understanding conversation. But see, understand this though. When you go to sit down and have those conversations, either one or the both of you are going to say things that the other one does not agree with. Yes. And it takes a lot of courage to sit there through what you don't agree with. Yes. Because you're going to have competing perspectives on a situation or a scenario or circumstances. You're going to have competing perspectives. They're going to have their opinion and you're going to have yours. Some of it's going to be based on facts. Some of it's going to be based on opinion. Some of and some of it is just going to be based on just like I said, conflicting views. Okay, if it's a person's opinion, you're talking about preference. Some people prefer to be approached a certain way. Who are you to tell them how they should be approached? It's for them to tell you how they want to be approached because it's them. They have a right to tell you what works for them, just like you have a right to tell them what works for you. That's opinion. That's preference. Yes. Okay, but now when you start talking about facts of the situation, okay, if a person came in and broke something of yours, okay, that's a fact. Okay, hey, you know what? You came in, you broke my vase, or you came in, you slammed my door, you came in, you didn't wipe your feet, you know, like I requested that you do. You came with your shoes on and tracked mud all through my house. Those are facts. Okay, those kind of things can't be argued. Okay, that happened. Yeah. So you can have that conversation because it's based on fact. But now when you're talking about conflicting opinions or conflicting perspectives, meaning that based on that person's view of life or what we call frame of reference, that person's experience, that person's emotions, that person's value, when they see a situation, they're going to see it a particular way because of their life experiences. And then when you see that same situation, you're going to see it a different way because of your life experiences. That's when it becomes important that you sit down and you listen to one another. Yeah. So where the both of you are able to lay your life experiences and explain why you saw it that way. Hey, my experience is this. This is why I saw it the way I saw it. And then that person can tell you, well, man, my experience was this, and this is why I saw it the way I saw it. And when you do that, that opens the door of communication, that alleviates trauma, that alleviates stress, that promotes relationship, that promotes understanding, that promotes a relationship, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's again, that's kind of how you deal with all that.
And I want to add to what you're saying. And you got to remember, when someone is grieving, it is like a wooded area, and it's a forest. You have to go in with a working compass. The compass will navigate you on how to deal, what direction to go with the person. A compass is not going to lead. It's not going to guide you into the wooded area to get lost. It's going to lead you to the nearest highway, because the highway gives you opportunity to find a destination. So you got to remember that. So when I say that, give someone a space, and that, you just remember that they're, at the time you go into them, they're in the forest, they're in the wooded area, but feeling all kind of feelings and emotions that's going on in their life. And it's it's dark, and it's in so many wood areas. You can get lost in the sauce trying to navigate with them if you don't got a working compass.
Right.
And that's love. Right. Utilize love in its proper form, and you'll find your way out of that area, out of the wooded area, or out of that forest, and you're gonna hit the highway to a destination that you can reach. So that's, I'm glad you brought that in. They gave me something to think about when you said that.
Oh, those are facts. Ready for number 3?
Yes, sir.
Number 3, can trauma be healed totally as a collective, or does it start with the individual when they don't want help nor believe that they need it?
Now, some people don't believe they need help.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people just feel like, well, what I feel is value. I don't need no help. I don't need to talk to nobody. I just feel like I can just I can stay in my own little hut, and I ain't got to deal with y'all anymore.
Right.
Is that the way? Is that how things get solved? To some people, yes. That's an individual healing that someone has to go through. Now, collectively, what you can do as a group, because there's always going to be somebody that person's going to be attached to. So maybe you can't go say something to them. Maybe there's someone else that's closer to them, that have a better relationship with them, that can go say something to them. Can bring your concerns to them, or bring your apology to them in a manner where they will be more receptive to. That's where the collective come in at. But individually, that person got to heal on their own. Because they have to be willing to look at the bigger picture. But at a moment at a time, they have 4 walls around them. They can't see past the walls that they put up. So that's why an individual that's close to them is like a door. Even though they got all these 4 walls, that individual is the door. Is able to go in and out of it. Not everybody. So that's where the collective part comes in at.
Well, true. What I would say is that what allows that person who's unapproachable to be approached by somebody else is relationship, trust.
Yes.
Because they trust that person for whatever reason. Yeah. They will allow them to approach. But they won't allow the other. Not that the other was saying anything or even doing anything that's any different from this one over here. Matter of fact, the one that they trust may come in a more aggressive manner than the one that they don't trust.
Yes.
But you're going to receive it different.
Yes.
It's much like our relationship. When we were growing up, we could say things to each other and we didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
But if other people said things to us, we took it personal.
Yeah.
And it's because we had a relationship. we had an understanding.
We knew we weren't trying to hurt.
We knew. I mean, we got so much history, and that we can fall back on and say, "Yep, I know Mike not trying to hurt. Yep, I know Raymond not trying. I know Raymond not trying to hurt."
And you know the funny part because I used to crack a lot, but I knew my cousin didn't like being cracked.
Yeah.
Cracked on.
Yeah.
So when I go around him, I knew I only crack a little bit and then I back off.
Yeah.
Certain other cousins will keep going at him,
Right.
and he'll fall out with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they didn't never read the room.
They didn't read the room. They didn't read the room. They didn't understand. Why? Because see, what I understood is, even though I didn't understand it then, but I set boundaries. I didn't do what I didn't want done.
Yes.
If I didn't set that boundary with you, then I didn't expect it to be done to me because I didn't set that boundary with you.
Yeah.
So it's like, when we were growing up.
I didn't have that.
Right.
I looked at more bummy. You never came around and talked about me like other cousins did.
Right.
So that's how we had that respect for one another.
Yeah, and it developed from a very young age.
Yes.
And it followed us all the way into our adulthood because it was just like it was the foundation.
Instead of you talking about me, you would give me clothes on the secret. You didn't give it to me in front of everybody.
Right.
You were like, hey, I got some pants and some shoes you can have.
Right. So exactly, because that foundation was established when we were kids, and then we became adults. Man, it was so solid that it never even had to be mentioned because it was just there. Yeah. It supported that house.
And you had other cousins that would give you stuff on everybody and then talk about you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It didn't mean anything.
And it wasn't that I didn't get mad at them, but it was just it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then as me learning how to, I would get offensive. We almost get in a fight sometimes. Yeah. Because I'm like, dang man, you always trying to bust me out, man. You could have took that stuff back. Right. Or he'll let me wear a jacket or something, Hey man, you don't get my jacket messed up. He'll wait to be in the club and say it.
Right. Right.
Oh man, I gave you $5 to get the phone.
Yeah.
You know, man. Always do something to because
oust you in front of
everybody. So that was the thing that you had to deal with, and you had to know each other's personality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I said. So everybody don't have that gift.
Right. Well, and it's really not a gift.
A relationship.
It's a learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a gift. It's a learning. It's being consciously aware.
Mm-hmm.
It's being consciously aware of your habits, of your unconscious habits. Meaning that if you've been told several times that you're insensitive, then that means that if enough people have told you that, then there's probably some truth to it, that you should probably be more considerate before you speak. Okay, let me see. A lot of people have told me that I'm insensitive, so before I say what I'm about to say, I need to weigh this out in my mind about how it might be received. You see what I mean? That's being consciously aware. Now, when you don't care, well, yeah, a lot of people didn't tell me that I'm insensitive, but guess what? They just being sensitive. I don't care. I'm going to be me. Okay? Now, that's a problem because, again, you can be that insensitive and that selfish in your own house by yourself. Yeah. But when you come out, you start dealing with the collective. Everybody, no matter who you are, you now have to make adjustments because you have to adjust for more people. It's just like when you were saying, this time you said about me, it's like, well, you were only child, right? So growing up in an only child home, you didn't have to share with anybody, right? Yeah. So I had to learn how to share. And the way I learned is by coming down and spending time with my cousins. That's how I learned, because at home I didn't have to worry about anybody touching my stuff or anything like that. But on the other hand, you have brothers and sisters. You had to worry about those kind of things. See? So I could learn from you those things about, well, man, you got to consider, now because you got well trained in being considerate of others. Why? Because you have brothers and sisters. They made you learn. It's like,
and you was mad because you couldn't be stingy.
Right. Because you come home trying to keep something.
Yeah, my mom would bring a pie in and the pie had to be cut in 5 pieces.
Yeah.
you know, it was never where I can get a big piece of pie
or get a second,
or a second piece because it was too many of us.
Right.
So the pie had to be cut. So therefore, I had to learn that I had to share everything.
Right.
So when even if I had a room, I had to share my room.
Right.
You know, we had a TV, we had to share the TV.
Right.
You know, and then when it came to the house, we had to share the responsibilities.
Right.
So it was like different. So you know, it does humble you to some degree, but it also angers you in the other aspect.
Right.
Because it's like, dang, I don't ever get a chance to be selfish.
Right.
I always got to give to my little brothers. You know,
right.
if my mom went to work, you know, I had to babysit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I wanted to go somewhere, I couldn't go that far because I had to come back and check on the house.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or for some people, you got to take your little sister, little brother with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You know, and that can engender some bitterness in somebody. Yeah. You know, and sometimes because of what people have experienced in you, and that's when we're talking about those frames of references. Mm-hmm. We're talking about those life experiences. We're talking about those values, you know, mm-hmm. those things that they have found and things that are important to them. You know, there's a reason why people think the way they think. Mm-hmm. And when they think the way they think, it behooves you to know why they think the way they think. And the only way that you're going to learn why they think the way they think is that you sit down, you have a conversation, and you discuss, hey, this is my perspective, this is the way I saw it, this is why I saw it the way I saw it. And then that other person tells you, hey, when this is my perspective, this is the way I saw it, this is why I saw it the way I saw it. And the better you get at seeing things from other people's point of view, at least in consideration. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. You don't have to agree with everything. Yeah. But at least consider, because what it does is it educates you. It educates you and causes you to be sensitive. It causes you to take into it causes you to take into consideration other people's perspectives.
Yes. And
it makes you more open.
It makes you way more open. And you know, where a lot of times, a lot of grievance starts and when it comes to death and stuff like that, and when you start to hear a lot of those issues, like if there's a big family, when the parent passed away, mm-hmm. one of the parents passed away, you start to hear some of the issues that each child had with one another, right, growing up.
Right.
That's what happened, and then that all comes out during the funeral.
Yep.
Dad paid more favoritism to you.
Yep.
That causes a grievance. That causes a lot of rift.
Yep.
Or I had to take care of y'all when I was growing up. I didn't get a chance to be a kid. Right. That comes out.
Yep.
Those are the things
that never got
dealt with from knee high to the grass high.
Yep. And
that happens a lot.
And then the will only adds to that, if there isn't one.
If there isn't one.
If there's a will and one is perceived that the favorite gets everything. Mm-hmm. Oh, see, he always favored you. That's when that stuff comes out. Yeah. That's when the real nasty comes out. Mm-hmm. You know, again, you know, and the reason why that's brought up is because we have to understand is that you don't, and I've said this before, and this is something that I had to learn. You never want to farm out your value. You never want to find your value in other people. Never allow other people to dictate your value. Mm-hmm. Because when you allow other people to dictate your value, that means they're in charge. Yes. And you're not in charge. Yes. That can make you a very bitter person. Mm-hmm. Because that on any given day, when you give that person charge of your value, that means they decide when the sun is up and they decide when the sun is down. Yeah. They decide when the stars come out. They decide when you get nothing at all. They decide, matter of fact, the moon's not even coming out on you today. You know, you don't ever want to give anybody that kind of power. And that's even with parents. Yes. You don't want to give people that kind of power because what that exemplifies, what that speaks to is that's where low self-esteem rears its ugly head. Low self-esteem is nothing more than farming out your value. Your esteem is determined by what other people think. You think very low of yourself, and the only time you think high of yourself is when somebody has something nice to say about you. But in any given time, when they become angry with you and they take back what they said that was nice about you, now you're back in that saddened place, that Eeyore type of mentality or Snuffleupagus type of mentality. Some of you don't, that's, telling my age there, Sesame Street and Winnie the Pooh, but you don't want to farm, you don't want to farm out your value. So what you find is that, like you said, at a funeral, that stuff comes out. All them childhood traumas and childhood hurts, things that they were said behind closed doors and was never brought out to the open. But then it comes out to the open when people. It's almost like you said, when we were just having a conversation about growing up, and you were saying sometimes somebody will give you something out in the open, and it make you feel some kind of way. Well, same thing happens at funerals, because it was one thing when it was have you ever seen that movie? Was it Coach Carter?
Yeah.
And they were talking about a battle. And he was talking about how he couldn't read.
Yeah.
And they were like, man, first it was just a few people knew that you know how to read. He said, now the whole world knows you can't read. But it's like that. It's that at a funeral where that pain was isolated, where you knew about it, you thought it was hidden. You thought it, you kept that thing under wraps. But then when the will was read, that fear that you thought was kept under wraps has now been brought out to the open as far as you're concerned. Now you feel embarrassed because now in your mind, everybody knows that so-and-so was the favorite. Yes. Growing up, it was talked about, it was mentioned, but there was nothing that really solidified it other than, in your mind, other than the fact that, maybe they were paid a little bit more attention to. But now this person is gone, and now the will says everything goes to this person, or maybe the house goes to this person, or maybe the bank account goes to this person, or maybe that person's favorite, whatever it was, goes to that person. Now you feel real salty about that.
And that is a time when the individual should morally look at it differently, but it doesn't work out that way most of the time, because some people start feeling like they're entitled to it because it was offered to them, instead of saying, okay, damn, I got brothers and sisters, it's more than just me. Even though it's left to me, let me distribute this equally, and we all just benefit from it, so there won't be no harsh feelings. Some people can walk away knowing that they know it's wrong, and they will walk away with and have no conscience of the other people that that these are still your brothers and sisters. Y'all grew up in the same house, you came out the same womb, y'all been raised under the same roof, taught the same beliefs, same thing. And then there's some that wasn't taught, that wasn't even in the same house. They were just brothers from father had a baby over here, but they still are entitled to something that a memorabilia from the father or the mother. But that's a moral compass. Everybody don't have that. Mm-hmm. And that's where we have the grieving coming at. Mm-hmm. That's where grieving becomes a stick of dynamite. Mm-hmm. It just blows up and destroys everything. Because nobody wants to sit down to understand the wick is lit, and eventually it's about to explode. We need to put it out, and that takes someone who has a consciousness, a level head to say, I know if I let this wick is it's lit, and it's gonna go off fast, and it's gonna destroy everything that my parents built. My dad didn't pay it. He didn't think it through that it's going to destroy us all. Well, sometimes they hoping that you do the right thing. Sometimes that's the case, but then also sometimes the case is that sometimes what parents do is they get in their emotions themselves about certain children. Yeah. And they say, you know what, I'm writing you out of my will. We've heard that, right? You'll get nothing. Okay? So, and that anger that they experienced may have been a moment in time, but they never went back to fix the will. Yeah. You see what I mean? Yeah. So, and again, because that is something that we're all guilty of.
We're all guilty of making in the moment decisions that have lasting consequences that we have to be mindful of.
Yeah.
When we make decisions, it's not just about that moment. Like you just said, when the wick is lit, if everything was left to you, you know you got brothers and sisters. Why not share with them? Why not give them something, whatever the case may be? You know the wick is lit. Because if you're thinking more with a level head and you think to yourself, wait a minute now, this can have lasting consequences. Because again, the funeral is not about the person who's gone. It is, but it's not. You're celebrating that person's life, the life that they lived, but at the same time, really the lessons to be learned is for the people who are still living. So when you consider that, and then when you consider what we're talking about now, we're talking about a will. What you're talking about is that okay, if I don't make the right decision, even though everything's been left to me, if I don't make the right decision, then I'm going to sever, if not destroy, relationships with my brothers and sisters, just with this one decision. You see what I mean?
And our children's not going to speak.
Our children's not going to speak, and people are going to be mad. And we've seen it in families. People are mad years down the line, and you try to get to the root of what people are mad about, and they can't even tell you. All they know is that their mama was mad at you, or mad at their mama's mama.
And
Auntie, whatever.
And instead of and they take the five F's in consideration. They fight. They gonna stand and fight, freeze, bond. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or fold.
And that's the thing. These are all things that have to be considered, that have to be weighed out. It's like, when we're living, we really have no time to waste.
No, we don't.
Because tomorrow's not promised to you.
No.
And how you interact with each other matters. It really does.
Yeah.
The time that you let pass matters because you never know when that time is up. Mm-hmm. So again, how do you avoid that? How do you properly prepare to prevent poor performance? How do you do that? Okay. Let me deal with today while I can deal with today. Let tomorrow take care of itself. Yeah. Because if I wait until tomorrow, I may not get tomorrow. Who's to say you're going to wake up? Who's to say they're going to wake up? You don't know. It's like leaving your home. You're mad at your wife and left her home and drove off because you're mad and you didn't say I love you. Now you leave, you get into a car accident. That's going to be the last thing on her mind. Mm-hmm. Is that wow?
Or she passed away.
You come back to the house for whatever reason, something happens, or she's the one that drove off for whatever, something happens, and you're like, and the only thing you remember saying, I don't care. I don't give two craps about how you feel as she walked out the door, as he walked out the door. Yeah. But now you think within yourself, man, I wish I never said that. Yeah. Because you made an in the moment decision that had lasting consequences. And those are the things, those are the life experiences that we have to be aware of. Those lasting consequences from an in the moment decision.
Yes. And and that's why I would say, we have to remember about I have to bring this back. Going into the wooded area and the forest of feelings during death, during tragic, during trauma. If you don't have a working compass, you're gonna get lost more in there, in that wooded area, in those deadbeat feelings and those emotions, that you are never gonna find a highway to reach a new destination or reach the destination that you wanted to achieve.
Can you do me a favor for the people to understand? You further define the working compass, break it down a little bit more so they understand what you mean. You're using that as a metaphor, but help them understand what that means.
The working compass is being able to understand each individual's feelings, each individual's way of thought, and take yourself out of the equation. Because if you have a working compass, you're able to understand that everybody don't think the way you think. Everybody don't feel the way you feel. everybody don't see things the way you see things. But once you realize that you use logical approach, you use a logical with the emotional approach, because emotionally you attach to the feeling that I want to solve the problem, but I know that I can't solve it this way. I have to give that person time, space, because it really mattered to me. That where you're using that working compass, and your guiding light is the star of love. Because once love is utilized in its proper context, in its proper measures, and it goes without boundaries, you're able to help that person navigate without even being in their presence. Because love it's a force that can't be reckoned with, and it's a vibration that you're going to feel, and it's a light that is going to shine, and it's a color that is bright. It's all those things in one. So if we utilize our thing properly, we can solve half the problem in our communities and our family. We just got to understand that you can't run from everything that goes on. You know, you can walk away. Walking away is good, because you got to go and process information. You got to go back and think and say, okay, you know, maybe if I could have handled it this way, I could have had a better outcome this way. Or maybe I said something that I should have said it. Maybe I should have tweaked that a little differently, because maybe I just let it blur out instead of using a deep thought process. It's always where you can process information, and you know, and a lot of us don't know how to do that. That's why I call it an art, and I call it a gift. Everybody don't have those things. That's something that you have to have the gift of. You have to ask for discernment to discern when you're in the room.
Well, I would like to say that I disagree with that statement right there.
Which one, discernment?
No, I disagree with that it's a gift. I don't think it's a gift. It's learned. In other words, and the reason why I say that, I truly believe in equipping people. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that, you know, it's like telling somebody what they can't do. No, I'm gonna tell you what you can do. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna tell you, if you want to learn this, you can. It just takes practice. Yeah. And it takes conscious practice. Mm-hmm. It takes consciously being aware of where the holes are on the field. And when you learn where the holes are, you learn where not to step.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that to the table. And I'm gonna say why I use the word gift versus a learner. A warrior and a soldier, they're two different types of people. A warrior is born with the understanding, already knows what it needs to do and how to do things. Soldiers train. So learn, I would look at it as a soldier. They have to learn to be a soldier, great soldier. But a warrior is born to be one. He knows his gifts. He knows his talent. He knows what he has to do to protect his home. He's just straight warrior. He don't compromise his position. He's going to do what he needs to do. We grew up. We knew what we were supposed to do when it came to protecting each other. Nobody taught us that. Nobody taught us that. Now, we had other cousins that we had to teach that. They were scared to do what we did.
Not that they were incapable.
It wasn't that they wasn't incapable.
They were afraid.
They was afraid, but we learned. They had to learn,
right,
by understanding that we got your back.
They lack courage.
Yes.
And see that's why I always emphasize.
Yeah.
That it's like, see, the difference between a warrior and a soldier is courage.
Courage.
Courage is what separates the two. Like you said, a soldier can be trained. Yes. To do it, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to fight.
Yes.
They can be trained to fight. They can be given all the necessary tools and may not pick up that weapon and may not use it. Matter of fact, they might hightail it out and they may run, turn around and run.
They might turn on you.
Or they might turn on you, whatever, right? But a warrior is courageous. Mm-hmm. A warrior looks for the fight and is willing to fight. Yes. Okay.
And he's born with the talent.
And so it's not, and it's like I said, everybody, I truly believe that everybody's capable. Mm-hmm. So I don't, because it's just the reason why it bothers me, because it's just like in books, where they used to try to say that certain cultures or certain races have bigger brains and bigger skulls. And I'm like, no, miss me with that. You see what I mean? It's like, no, I can learn the same things you can learn if I apply myself. You see what I mean? You're not better than me. Okay? And so, because like I said, I know we got children watching this, that, and the other, and I want them to understand. People, when someone's just more well practiced than you, that's all they are. It doesn't mean that they're better than you, as in you're incapable of achieving those things. You're not incapable. Now, there are, of course, there's physical characteristics and things like that that come into play. When you're talking about basketball players, 7 foot, being able to dunk and being right up under the rim, and and you're only. But then Muggsy Bogues kind of, proved a different point. Being as short as he was, but yet can jump and can dunk and this, that, and the other. So again, there are anomalies out there. There are people who have enough heart or enough courage. Maybe Muggsy Bogues was what we would call a warrior when it came to that. He's like, look, I don't care about the fact that all you guys are taller than me. I can dunk too. You know what? And I'm gonna keep working on it until I do it. Okay. So that and that's what I'm saying is that I want people to understand that when it comes to change, when it comes to something that you feel like you lack or something that you don't have, you don't have to be jealous. You don't have to be envious. You don't have to be hateful. Go get it. And it may take you a little bit of time. That's okay. You got to crawl before you walk. Babies taught us that. They crawl before they walk. They stoop before they walk. Then they start pulling themselves up. But they get there eventually. All babies get there. Unless there's a disease or something like that, they all get there eventually, right? So, and that's the takeaway that I want people to have is that don't let anybody tell you what you cannot do. Do not let nobody limit you. Again, your value starts with you, not with somebody else telling you what you can and cannot do.
And I want to elaborate on that too. I call it fields of duty. Everybody is not able to in this field. That's their duty. Like some people can't. Some people are not book smart. That's just not their forte. But they're good at the hands. So if schools will learn to draft people in the areas that they're good at, to show them where their intelligence is at, and I think that will be more, because if you're right, because some people just don't like to learn.
Well, what you're talking about, there are different learning styles.
Yes, learning abilities, and learning fields,
and you get teachers that only teach to one particular learning style, and maybe that's not how that student learns.
Yes.
So it's not that they're incapable of learning.
It's not that they're dumb.
It's not that they're dumb. You're not teaching them in a way that they can learn.
You remember back in the days of the way they taught ABC was everybody couldn't learn it like A, B, C, D, so they had to put it in the songs. They had to do it a different way. Yeah. Because that was people's different learning. Yeah, it's a different way of learning. And mathematics was another one. A lot of people some people just can't get it. Some people can, some people can't. Some people just, so that's what I say, learning fields.
It takes some time when anything that you're learning new takes time.
Yes.
It takes a whole lot of effort to learn something new. Now, when it comes easier for some than others, and sometimes the bottom line is because that person has an interest in that thing. This one may not have an interest in that thing, so they're not going to put forth as much effort.
Yes.
As this one over here who has an interest in that, so they put forth a whole lot of effort.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? They sacrifice whatever they need to sacrifice. Get up early, go to bed late. They sacrifice TV, sacrifice everything. They sacrifice going out with friends, all that. Because it means that much to them. But then you have this over here that kind of likes it. They say, well, I kind of like it, but I like going out with my friends more. Yeah. Okay, I like partying more. I like watching TV more. I like being. You see what I'm saying? So, but if you ask them about Facebook, or they can tell you how Facebook works,
or about sports,
or
you they know every name, they know every football.
Right.
I don't know half the names.
Yes,
these guys know every.
They know every last name and their histories and everything. So again, so if you can know the history of a football player, you can know the history of our country.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? But what I'm saying is, but yet in school you struggle. Why? Because not because you're incapable. It just doesn't spark your interest.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So and like I said, and that's what I like to point out to people is that, you know,
But I
sometimes
don't want them. I want you to, because you said it good. You said that you don't want them to feel like they're incapable.
Yes.
So what I'm saying, reason why I'm using learning fields is because certain fields people are better at.
Yes.
Than others. So just because you're not good at math and you know it's not your interest,
It's not your forte.
that don't mean that you ain't smart in English.
Exactly.
That don't mean you ain't smart in social studies.
Exactly.
That don't mean you ain't smart in geometry.
Exactly.
You know, so it's always that thing that, you know, or you might be a type that can turn around and build a robot out of just your own thought.
Right.
Or you can be the type that can work on cars and nobody ever taught you.
Right.
You know, you can be the type that can build a house but nobody even taught you.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, learning fields.
Yep.
You know, that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
You know, and he's smart at it.
Yep.
You know, and remember what they said that certain people are good at certain trades.
Yes.
You know, a painter ain't good at hanging drywall. That's not his thing.
It's not that he's incapable.
He can't do it.
It just doesn't draw his interest.
It doesn't draw his interest.
So hey, this is what I prefer to do. This is what I prefer to learn. This is what gets me going. This is what I'm passionate about.
Yes.
And it's okay to be really good at what you are passionate about.
Yes.
And it's okay for somebody else to be really good at what they're passionate about. And then you come together. That's how you get collaboration.
Yeah.
When you get a whole bunch of minds together, because when you put together a team properly, you put that team together based on strengths.
Yes.
And when you put that team together based on strengths, you're good in this, you're good in that, you're good in this, you're good in that, you're good in this, and you're good in that, and you all have the goal in mind, a common goal in mind, and you're willing to aim for that goal. And when you got a good team. Yeah. But no one person is good at everything.
Now we take that same analogy and look at this room. How many individuals with their own gifts and talent created this room?
Exactly.
You had an electrician.
Exactly.
You had a plumber.
Yes.
You had a drywaller.
Exactly.
You had a painter.
Exactly.
You had a floor.
Exactly.
You had a trimmer. You had, you know, so you had an appliance guy.
Yep.
You know, so all these things came together from all different perspectives. Right. You know, so, and he had a framer. Right. So all these people came together. Now, when we talk about grieving and we talk about family, and we talk about using a working compass, yes, the working compass and using this as grieving and dealing with this is that knowing that each individual comes with something. Yes. One person might be grieving this way, this person grieving that way, this person respect the boundaries of each other's grieving process. Right. We have to heal in the area where we understand that grieving is essential for us to grow, because it's called growing pains. We have to grow beyond where we're at right now. And the only way we're going to do so, sometimes we have to allow certain people that will come around and grieve with you. And there's certain people that grieve without you. Don't knock the one who don't come around. Right. If you can't reach them and you know that you don't have that relationship, right, don't try to go over there and force feed yourself over there. Exactly. If there's someone else, like you can go over there and talk to them, right, allow you to go over there and talk to them, right, and then you will bring them back to the fold. Right. That's where people will be messed up at too. Yeah. You know, that's why.
Yeah. Those are facts. Those are facts. Want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
All right.
Number 4 or 5?
I believe we're at 4. Let me see. Yeah, because we're at Ken Trump here. So number 4, if we are to seek help, where should we seek help? We need from. Is it just the church or government or institution?
I think we need all. I think all works.
You just said it a minute ago. And that was whoever has a relationship or whatever works for that individual or that community or those, or that group, but don't knock them for whatever one that they choose to use.
Yes.
If they choose to use a church, they use a church. They choose to use a government, they use a government. They choose to use, you know, it's like,
psychiatrist.
or psychiatrists. Don't knock them for it, because that's what works for them, and it's okay.
So why did in our community we were shunned on to go to see a psychiatrist for so long? Now all of a sudden we realizing that we really need to go there
because people viewed it as brainwashing. Now, I'm not going to sit up and go to some psychiatrist and tell me about my feelings and brainwash me into thinking. You see what I mean?
Or that other thing that what goes on in this house stays in the house?
That too. But like I said, yeah, that's the other thing. We're gonna have our business out there for everybody to know, the whole world to see. You know, why? Because we're gonna be embarrassed. You see what I'm saying? So you forego the help for your pride. So you're no different from Esau, who sold his birthright for a suit. You see what I mean? You're just like him. You see, but you'll sit there in church and say, "Whoa, man, that Esau, he was horrible." No, you're horrible too, because you sell certain things for other things too. You trade things off too, things that are of value to you versus things that are not, that you don't view up as value.
And then you will sit and tell someone that you know who doesn't have your best interest.
Yes.
And then you wonder why you were in an agreement state longer than what you should have.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Because you share that with the wrong person.
Yeah.
You from life experience, you've got plenty of experience with this individual or individuals or a group or whatever. You've got plenty of experience with them. We're just like the FBI. They do a background check on you, and they go all the way back to what they say. It goes back all the way back to your kindergarten teacher, so they can get a good picture of who you are. So in life, we do the same thing with people. It's like you've spent enough time with them, have known them long enough. This snake has bitten you enough times for you to know that it's a snake and that it's poisonous. But yet you continue to say, "Well, that was then, this is now." It's like, there's that, when people show you who they are, believe them. There's a reason for that saying. It's like, but then and that doesn't mean that people can't change. But the thing is, it's not about people telling you that they're going to change.
You know the tree by the fruit that it bears.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you go to a rotten tree
and expect to get good fruit
and reach for the low bearing fruit when you need to go somewhere where you have to climb up the tree and get the good fruit?
Well, put some time in. That's basically what you're saying. Yeah. Put some time in to get the good fruit. Make sure that the tree is not pretending to be a tree.
Yes. And you know it, and you know what type of fruit you're looking for.
Right.
But I just don't understand. But that's just one of the grieving problems. Why people wonder why they're grieving for longer periods of time, because they get the wrong toxic information, and it causes them to stay where they at. Stay sick.
Well, that's true. Sometimes people look for agreement. They look for people to agree with them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leaders that do the same thing.
Yeah.
They surround themselves by people who think like them.
So
why do you think you will never be able to, your company will never be able to progress to a higher level? Will not be able to respond to changes in the environment? While your relationships stay stagnant and will not grow, because your whole friend group thinks just like you. Okay, and so it's better to have somebody who's willing to oppose you sometimes.
Yeah. And
say, "Hey, I hear where you're coming from, bro, or I hear where you're coming from, sis, but I don't agree with you, and this is why." You gotta have those people around you, because those people help you grow. Matter of fact, iron sharpens iron. You help each other grow, because just like they're different from you, you're different from them. So when they're saying certain things or doing certain things, you can say, "Hey, you know what? I don't know if I agree with that, and this is why." There's growth in that. But if you both think the exact same way and do things the exact same way all the time, then there's no checks and balances in that. So there's no growth. There's no challenge because growth is brought about by challenge. Okay, plants grow when they got to push through the dirt. Okay, so that's how plants grow, right? So, and the ground has to be the ground has to be tilled, and the ground has to be ready for that seed, and then there's a process of rain and a process of sun and
It has to die first. It has to go in that dormant state.
So all these things work together to promote growth, and so you can't look at challenges and say, nah, not all challenges is bad, but not all challenges is good, and you got to know the difference.
And you got to know that even with the seed, it has to go into total darkness, right, to go come out into the light.
Right.
So it's a process.
Right. So, but like I said, to finish up with number 4, don't knock somebody for what works for them.
Yes. Yes.
Number 5, how can a understood love deal with the hurts when many don't understand how to love properly?
Yeah, that right there is because understood love is one of those things that if I would say like siblings. When siblings have an issue from something that happened during the adolescent years growing up, and they feel like mom or pops treated me different, or treated you different, or treated someone different, or the baby always everybody's always mad at the baby, the youngest one, because they all feel like mom and dad was mean to us, but when they got down here, now they just let them get away with anything. So that kind of feuds a lot of family, and that causes a lot of division. But they love their little brother,
right?
And they love their mom and dad,
right?
So that misplaced love, it gets misplaced. What true love is, because it ain't the young kid's fault for because the parents just got old. We got older, and that's something that everybody don't think. You don't think about that until you get older and mature. You start to understand, or when you have your own kids, you start to see that. It ain't that they give that kid more. It's just that they got to the stage and said, "Hey, I'm tired."
Sometimes that's the case,
and sometimes it could just be the youngest one. But there's some,
or it could be that they learned from the older ones, and because of what they learned from dealing with the older ones, they made adjustments for the younger ones.
Yes.
Because maybe in their mind, man, I realized I was too strict with the older ones. Yeah. So now I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna back off a little bit with the younger ones. Sometimes they back off too much, but I'm gonna back off with the younger ones because I noticed that with my older ones, I engendered hatred or I engendered resentment in them.
Yes.
Because of how I treated them. So with the younger one, I don't want to engender that same resentment that I have with the older one,
or with the grandchildren.
Yeah. So I'm going to step back a little bit. So sometimes that may be.
And maturity might come in play. So so maturity can prevail later on in life. So because of them, that's what working comes.
Yeah.
You start to understand. You start to feel going in a wooded area and say, "Man, okay, I see what I need to do. So I won't make the same mistake here."
Right.
So so that's how that works. So was that the end of number 5? Or?
Yeah, that's the end of number. We're at number 6. We're at number 6. How can love be enough to mend the hurtful words and actions that many display in a time of grieving?
Well, when you love somebody, when you truly love family, community, brother, sister, son, daughter, mother, father, aunt, uncle, if you truly love them, you're able to forgive. Everybody, when you truly love, you're able to forgive for when people wronged you. You don't count no wrongs. You don't look to retaliate, because love is your weapon of choice. And I don't think everybody know how to do that. I don't think everybody know how to understand how to utilize love.
It's
because feelings is being
it's really it's almost like trying to navigate through the sea
Yes.
of emotions.
Mm-hmm. And a little
And-
ship.
Right. So as you're trying to navigate through, there's always that fear of getting hurt more.
Mm-hmm. Getting
It's
tipped
like,
over.
yeah,
or
it's it's just like, exactly. Storms in because things are gonna come about. It's like, let's say you go to apologize, and that person says, "Man, look, it ain't my problem that you're
in your feelings.
that you're in your feelings." Now the relationship's in a worse condition than what it was before you even went to try to have that conversation with that person.
It's like a little ship with no sail.
Right. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
You
so,
stuck out there in the middle
right.
of the sea.
Now you hope. The hope is that love prevails on both sides.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, where now, and now I'll hit something else in a minute, but is that that there's an understanding where you bring that to someone's attention that, oh, you know what? I didn't know it made you feel that way. Mm-hmm. My apologies. Hey, this, and this. Now the relationship can move forward because a person took the time to hear your perspective on the situation and taking it in consideration, took it seriously, and made the necessary adjustments for the relationship to work. But then there's that other side where when you know how people, this is what you've told me. Well, you know how he is, or you know how they are. When you know how people are, you accept them for who they are because you're not going to get anything different. In other words, sometimes there are just certain people who are just not going to change no matter what you do. Yeah. And it's okay to love them people from a distance. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that you stop loving them. It doesn't mean that you hate them. But it means that you properly use that compass where you understand where you can go with them. Yes. You understand what directions you can go with them. You understand how far you can go, how far you shouldn't go, how far, you understand how far out on that, like if you're dealing with a tree, you have an understanding of how far out on that branch that you can step before it snaps from under you. Yes. With certain people, you've got to have that with certain people, you've got to have that kind of understanding where you accept them for who they are and don't expect anything more out of them than what they're willing to give you. Yes. And that sometimes relationships are just that with certain people. Not like that with everybody. You just kind of have to know, again, using that compass, know who's who. Yes. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I always say you got to know the 5 W's: the who, what, when, where, and why. You're dealing with a person, that's grieving or have misplaced love, or when you know who, then you understand why, mm-hmm. And then you understand where you need to go with them when you're dealing with them, and then you understand when you have to usher in the proper love, mm-hmm. Or sometimes you have to usher in disciplined love, mm-hmm. Because there's some love love sometimes comes with discipline, mm-hmm. So sometimes you have to say, you know what, you're not going to talk to me the way you ain't going to talk to me any other way. Right. We're going to end this conversation right now because I'm going to demand my respect from you, mm-hmm. And I don't care how much you're grieving, mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you're hurt. You ain't going to push your hurt on me. So sometimes you have to know when to do that. And then you got to know why you're doing that. You do why because you're trying to keep peace within yourself.
And you got to know how far to go.
And
stop.
So that's why you know the who, what, when, where, and why. Yeah. And only way you're going to be able to do that, sometimes you have to understand the 3 C's. The 3 C's is the best way to understand, to make people understand you, because you have to stay consistent of the things that you believe in. Right. If you believe in what you believe, stay consistent in that. Right. Stay committed to what you're going through, right. And what you feel. Right. If you feel a certain way, stay committed. Right. But you also have to understand you have to learn to communicate that. Right. So those are the 3 C's. Right. So I'm just saying, so you just understand that it's a formula to life. Mm-hmm. And once you use the right formula, you can navigate yourself through this. That's where the working compass coming at.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6.
We just did number 6.
Number 7.
How can we love enough to mend the hurtful words and actions that many display? Oh, at the time of grief. Yeah, we did
Yeah,
that.
did that one.
Now this one,
That would,
I think.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, what will be? So our last one is, what will be the solution in repairing these damages moving forward? What will be the solution in repairing these damages moving forward?
I think we talked about it. Learn how to use the working compass.
Yeah, learn how to use the working compass. Allowing understanding and consideration to enter the room. Being willing to hear the other person's perspective, listen down, listen to each other's perspective. Have a listening ear. Being consciously present. And when I talk about consciously present, I'm talking about being deliberate in your listening, being deliberate in your response, being deliberate in the actions that you take for the benefit of the relationship.
Yes.
Those things have to be deliberate. That they have to be purposely done.
Yes.
They can't be passively done. And if you've been doing it a certain way, and you're not consciously aware of how you've been doing it, that's probably been tearing the relationship down. Then you may find yourself falling into a habit that you don't even know is present. Yeah. And it's how it's having a negative effect. So with that being said, it will benefit us to be consciously aware of our habits, our thoughts, why we think the way we think, and to make the necessary adjustments when the time calls for us to make the necessary adjustments. Yes. For the benefit of relationship.
Yes. And I always say that, our greatest asset and attribute is understand how to use compassion when compassion is needed. Sometimes we get so caught up in what we believe, we overlook the boundaries of others. My belief is going to be my belief. I can push, pull, and push it on somebody, but that doesn't mean they're going to be receptive to it. So what I have to do, we talked about this a long time ago, or many times. We said learning to read the room. Learn to see if it's working and if it's not working. Because your goal is not to leave someone sick, like you always say. Never leave nobody sick. And no way you ain't gonna be able to leave them sick. You got to read the room to know if they're following you. If they're not following you, then guess what happened? You lost them, so you leaving them sick. So if you read in the room and you say, okay, well, maybe this day right now is not the day I'm gonna be able to reach that person because there's something in them. Because you gotta remember, we ain't just dealing with flesh and blood. We're dealing with other things too, you know what I mean? And us being cognizant and knowing that the Bible said put the armor of God on, and knowing which armor we're using, we got to use at the particular time and moment. We got to remember that we're dealing with people who might have a demon rising up in them or a spirit in them that is of rejection. They're rejecting everything we're trying to push forward to them. So sometimes you might have to say, you know what? Okay, we're going to talk about it. We're going to continue this another day. I think maybe right now, maybe it's not the time or the place or the matter right now. Maybe because it doesn't matter to you right now. It's not the right time. It's not the right place. Catch them in a different place. Catch them at a different time. Because it should really matter to you that you want to reach that person and teach them or give them what they need to be gotten. And I had to learn that dealing with family members, dealing with my own brothers and sisters, dealing with my mom, dealing with my father, me and my dad didn't have a good relationship. We didn't have a relationship. And, when it came down, when I finally got a chance to meet my dad, he was in a state of not knowing who he was because he was in a dementia state. And it was hard because, as a kid, you always want to know, you want your dad to embrace you as your child. And then when you finally get a chance to have this relationship with your dad, he's not coherent to who you are. And then he's cussing you out, and he's doing things, you know, because he's not in his rightful mind, and you had to see him in that state that I didn't get a chance to see him in this good glory state. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it was kind of hurtful for me, but it was a learning curve. It was a learning thing, saying that time is precious, time is too short. And I remember my sisters and them said to me, and I'm not trying to bust them out. I remember when we had that conversation. We were sitting in the hospital. My dad just cussed us all out. It went crazy on us, and we was like, "Oh, I didn't say we." But my sister said, one of my sisters said, I was crying. She's like, "I just can't believe we put ourselves to the side to come over here help him. This is what we get out of this." And I told him before, we brought him from where he was at. We brought him from a state to another state to live with us so we can get to know our dad. I said, remember I said 3 C's. We have to commit to what we want to do. We got to stay consistent. I said, we all have a problem. We got to communicate with one another. I said, so we committed to bring him here, and we knew his state. We got to stay consistent. I said, we just got to keep communicating to help embrace each other to deal with this harsh reality. It worked. You know, but you have to make that up. You have to make that up inside yourself. That's the individual thing. That became a collective thing. And that's what I always say about the family. So I know anything worth fighting for is worth it. If it's worth you work to see your family come together. Hey, everybody, even in the scripture, it said 1/3 of the people didn't had to be destroyed. Everybody's not gonna get along. Everybody's not gonna come along. So I understand that 100%. But that doesn't stop the fact that God didn't stop trying. It was up to them to make that choice. They made the choice not to want to. He said, who was for me, who was not. And they separated themselves. So they did that to themselves. He didn't do that. So family, and I always tell the family, we had this conversation with them. And I recommend all family members get together, because right now we're at the stage that people are passing, people are leaving this earth left and right. It's time for families to come together and have that conversation. Let's talk about proper preparation to prevent poor performance. Let us talk about what we could do as a collective so the strain won't be on each other, won't be on the family when a freak incident happens. Let's have these conversations now while we are cognizant of understanding. Don't wait till something happens, then decide you want to start having these conversations. Have the conversation before they happen so that you be properly prepared so you won't have poor performance. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
What you got to say on that?
I think you just nailed it.
So I just want to say, we us and ours, love, life, and loyalty. Thanks for showing up. I'm sorry we was gone for 2 weeks. I've been getting a lot of people have been tearing me up, saying, "Man, where y'all at? Where y'all at?" We're back. We just had sometimes you gotta take a break sometime, to get your head together, because we going through stuff ourselves too. So sometimes we have to get some things and do some things, and because this is it takes a lot trying to deal with issues, and then we got our own issues we got our own little fires in our own families, in our own houses that we trying to put out, we trying to navigate through and feel our way through, and so bear with us. We ain't leaving y'all high and dry. We here for you, and we're gonna keep bringing the fire. So, anything you want to say at the end?
You got it.
All right, love, life, and loyalty.
Peace.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the